Alright guys, I'm MrBitter, and this will be the first in what's hopefully going to be a series of recordings that I'll be doing that I'm going to call Learn from Your Losses. Now in this series I'm going to be casting games that I lost, and we're going to be trying to pick up on some of the things that went wrong and that could have been done better. I'm a, I don't know, 1K-ish rated master level Zerg player on the North American ladder. And all of these games will be Zerg games for the time being. This one is a ZvT against this guy, FCK Neo. So let's go ahead and get it started and see how it unfolds. Now the map is Typhon Peaks. I'm spawning down here in the bottom right hand corner of the screen as the red Zerg, and our blue Terran player spawning here in the bottom left. Typhon Peaks is a map that's very large and often favors expansive macro play, but at the same time has very narrow corridors, making positioning very important throughout the course of the game. Presently, 15 Hatchery has maybe been phasing out a little bit as a Zerg opener. 2 racks bunker plays are very strong, and some of those variants, 11 racks, 12 racks, and then into a bunker rush, come so fast that a hatch first can be very badly punished, often putting Zerg way behind, sometimes losing him the game outright. For this reason, I've started to integrate some pool first and speed first play into my ZvT, and that's what you guys are going to see me do here. I'm going to go 14 gas, 14 pool while scouting. Now my plan this game was to drone scout and to start going 14 gas, 14 pool, and if I'm going to scout him doing something that's not a 2 racks, I'll cancel the gas and then go fast expand. However, as you can see, I'm scouting in the wrong direction, and I'm gonna scout him last. So by the time I actually scout him, it's going to be too late for me to cancel my gas or my spawning pool, which is starting right now. Okay. So let's just talk about the game as it's unfolding. Terran has taken 1 gas, and he's building a racks. For aspiring Zerg players, when you scout something like this, you probably want to start thinking, hey, this might be a Hellion opening. Could also be a Reaper opening. Probably not going to be something like Banshee, because that's going to involve fast 2 gas. Anyway, my drone scout's still taking his time finding the Terran player. You can see I've thrown the pool down. I'm trying to play as safely as I can. So I've cut all production. I have an Overlord on the way, and I'm going to be making some Zerglings here as soon as the spawning pool finishes. This is to be safe against 2 racks. This is all to be safe against 2 racks. Drones coming off gas as I mined the first 100. Actually mined. Took 2 extra trips. Link speed on the way. You're going to see some Zerglings enter production as soon as I have 3 larvae. There they are. And there's my queen. And finally, my drone is going to scout the front here. And because I've just recently started fooling with 14 gas speedling openings in ZvT, I'm not sure what the very best response is to this build, so we're going to learn together as we watch this replay. Terran has gone for this factory. This is further evidence that he probably wants to go Hellions. Of course, I don't know that. If you look at my vision, I'm completely blind to what's in the Terran main because of this last scout. Regardless, I saw the factory, and I also saw the reactor being started on the barracks, so I knew that Hellions were on the way. As a result of this, you're going to see me throw down a Roach Warren, which in retrospect might not have been the smartest decision. So I'll kill his scout, Roach Warren goes down immediately. If you're going to make roaches at all, you do not want Terran to scout it, and here I am back on gas, so that I'm going to have gas with which to make these roaches. Link's just checking out the front, confirming, yes, reactored Hellions are on the way. Seeing that Marine, and then kind of bailing. Not anything Zerg can do at this point from this position to really pressure Terran. Now when roaches come out, a great deal of pressure can be applied. And had I gone hatch first, going roaches off of 2 base would have been a beautiful response to the way he's playing. It would have allowed me to apply ample amounts of pressure, delay his expansion, and really power my economy behind that. But because I used a more aggressive opening, 14 gas, 14 pool, going to build these roaches is actually going to put me a little bit behind. And as you can see here on the units tab, I'm kind of behind already. 19 drones to 20 SCVs, and he has mules coming down. So when these roaches start popping out, I am going, well, as I invest in these roaches, as you see that I'm doing right now, I'm going to be falling farther and farther behind. Also, you can see he's only produced 2 hellions, and he's switched the factory back to the tech lab. So he's going to be able to start making tanks, which are going to keep him super safe. My roaches have no chance of doing damage here. First hellions show up. Roaches are going to kind of shoo them away. Get out of here, hellions. And there they go. And Zerg is now, or I am now going to push these roaches all the way across the map to try to apply a little bit of pressure. Now with a 2-base opening, I'm super comfortable doing this because I know the timings work out in such a way that he's not going to have siege mode done when my roaches get there. But because I opened for kind of something less economical, my roach push has been delayed, and so much so that he's actually got a completed barracks and a tank with siege mode in place. So there is no chance of these roaches doing any damage. You see, I'm actually going to lose one. So at this point, I have to back off, and I'm pretty noticeably behind. Equal in drones, but Terran has mules, and he's going to be able to drop those out of 2 orbitals. And he's actually getting some harass in. These hellions were never actually dealt with. I just kind of made them run. So I'm going to lose a couple drones here. This is going to put me further behind. Eventually the hellions will die. And because I'm droning as this is happening, you're not noticing a huge disparity in terms of the worker count. But if we look here on the workers lost, he actually killed 5 drones there. Well, 4 if we include our scouting drone, which was killed while it was at the front. So now Terran is going to transition into a very normal marine tank play, and I will figure this out in just a little while because I'm gonna scout his front. But this is a difficult thing to play against just because of how well and how smoothly his build is going. He's basically playing the exact game that he wants to play. My pressure has been completely fruitless, and I'm being forced to kind of improvise and try and fumble my way through this game. So I'm trying to transition back into what I'm most comfortable playing. That's Infestor Zergling. But I'm behind. We're on even workers. You never want to be on even workers with a Terran. We're on even bases. Again, you never want to be on even bases with a Terran. Because he has mules, he will always mine faster. If you look at the income tab, he's beaten us very handily here. And as you guys know, Zerg needs to maintain a 1-base advantage in all of their matchups, even in ZvZ if possible. So Terran playing very normally. Medevac is on the way, so he may be... oh, look at this. It's a Viking. So he may be gearing up for some drop play. My 3rd base finally going down. This is pretty late. By comparison, here we are 10 minutes into the game. My 3rd has started. Really top-level Zerg players try to have that 3rd base started around 7:30, 8 minutes in the game. Certainly there are situations where a later 3rd is acceptable, but they are few and far between. A couple spore crawlers going down now in the Zerg base. This is because I was afraid of Banshee. I saw the Viking. That tells me he has a starport, and I didn't want to get caught with my pants down by a cloaked Banshee. The spores are a minimal investment, but when you're this far behind, 35 drones to 43 SCVs, that minimal investment is something that hurts. Here's that drop that we were talking about, unloading behind the foliage. And he's going to run over here and probably stem. No, not even going to stem. Focus down my queen real quick. I lost 1, 2, 3 drones. Now for some reason he's going to fight my spore crawler. And there are the lings. They're going to shoot him away. But just look how far behind we are. So immediately we are identifying a huge hole in my play. Terran hasn't really applied any direct pressure. I was very afraid of it, and as a result of that, making lots of units. But because he wasn't bringing that pressure, those units became useless. You can't attack into a sieged fortified Terran player. And so these useless units that could have been drones end up just kind of sitting on the map, not really doing anything, not really contributing to the flow of the game in any way, with the exception of putting me further and further behind. My economy is awful. 3 bases to 2 bases, but not even saturated really anywhere. My main, undersaturated. My natural, undersaturated. And my 3rd, clearly undersaturated. For those of you guys that are watching this just for fun facts, a saturated base is going to involve 6 guys on gas and at least 16 guys on minerals. 16 to 24 guys on minerals. Infestation Pit is done, and I'm going to need infestors to deal with the Terran's Marines. But because of how behind we are, my production is just not going to be able to keep up. And Terran is now securing this third base, and as a Zerg player, you should always make it your mission to scout and deny the third of your opponent. So I'm looking for this. I know he has to expand. So I take out these rocks. I'm going to poke down here and see. Oh, there's the base. And here's another mistake. I make the poor decision of engaging here. We got a good surround, and we did some damage, and we killed some Marines, but that was not a good trade. We lost all of our lings and dealt no damage to his infrastructure. All we killed were a few very cheap Marines. Also, as a result of that, losing those lings means we lose our map control. So you can see that jumping up. After losing those guys, I had to produce units because he was in a position where he could say, oh, you just lost your lings, I'm going to push now. That is not a position Zerg wants to be in when he has no units. And so as you can see, I'm digging myself a deeper and deeper hole throughout the course of this game through bad decisions and unnecessary aggression. My 14 pool was unnecessary because he did not go 2 racks. My engagement here was completely unnecessary because it was hopeless. There was no chance of success. And as a result of these poor decisions and the way they kind of add up and compound, I'm falling farther and farther behind. Terran almost doubling my supply at this point in the game. Flying around the map, picking off overlords, and slowing me down further. I do have some infestors out, and these will help against Marines, but they're certainly not the sort of end-all be-all unit that we want. Now, the end-all be-all unit that Zerg wants in this position is Broodlords. If you can get Broodlords out, you can definitely stop Terran from pushing, and you can start to crawl back into the game mode. Here's some harassment, actually, that we missed. So I'm actually going to pause, and we'll back up to see that, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Now, I am behind, no question about it. What is the best way for a Zerg player to get back into a game when they're behind, or for any player to get back into a game when they're behind? Well, the answer to that question is by harassing and expanding. And really, you need to do both when you're in a situation like mine. So I do. I know this. I recognize that he has more economy than me, so I send these infestors out. And we're going to try and deny some of the workers here at this third base of Terran. I can't stop him from having that command center, but I can impair the mining. And so we're going to kill, looks like 10 SCVs there, which is, it's certainly nice. And not quite going to get a siege tank. But 10 SCVs is something that I'll take. It helps, For the first time in the game, we have a drone lead. And maybe this is the beginnings of some sort of a comeback. Unfortunately, Terran's reached a point where he's ready to push. He has a lot of Marines, a lot of siege tanks, 10 siege tanks in fact. And I don't really have a lot to answer for that. Zerglings are okay against tanks, but when you have that many tanks, it becomes much, much harder to effectively engage them. Infestors are great against Marines, but again, with this many tanks, engaging at all is hard. And with this many Marines, it's hard to get effective fungals. And this is really going to rely on Zerg getting Broodlords out in time to kind of deter this pressure. Now I know he's here. I know he wants to deny my third base, so I've got my infestors in position to hopefully catch him if he comes down the ramp. And Terran's just sort of jockeying for position, and importantly he's making me move. You see how he's moving back and forth here? I don't know which way he's going to attack from, so I'm having to kind of guess. Now I make the very bad mistake of walking my infestors into range here, and I'm going to lose one. That hurts badly. Now, those are 2 fungals that would have made a big difference in this engagement that's about to take place. Now there's no holding this base. Oh, I lied. Here come the Broodlords. So Broodlords are going to allow me to hold here. Notice how Terran immediately unsieges all but 1 tank. And he has to relinquish this position. He absolutely must relinquish this position. Because the Broodlords just cause so much friendly fire. Terran's ready though. He knows what's going on. He's already got 6 Vikings out. He's just going to fall back to a more defensible position, make sure that he has his stuff ready. And these Vikings are going to make very short work of these Broodlords. In a perfect sort of scenario, Zerg's going to have enough infestors, some corruptors as well, and probably more broods and more Zerglings. Just more of everything, in short, which makes dealing with this a lot easier. But when Terran has these kinds of numbers, there's no chance of really engaging it directly. So he cleans up that honestly, that pitiful attempt at aggression. And now Zerg has nothing left. Trying hopelessly to produce some lings, running the drones from my third back to my natural. No chance of victory at this point. Maxed Terran army against the 100 supply of Zerg. Enough Vikings to deal with any broodlords that come out. Not nearly enough corruptors. And even if there were no Vikings, I don't have enough broods. I have no infestor or baneling support to deal with the Marines. So a couple fungals are going to go off. We might kill a handful of Marines here. But the truth of the matter is, Terran is going to absolutely clean up here in just a second. One last fungal going to go down on the tanks. And there's the GG. So, there were lots of mistakes in this game made by myself, the Zerg player, that we need to reflect on. The first is our opening. Is it okay to call Speedling Expand a mistake? Probably not. But it is okay to point out the holes and the mistakes that were made after that. Speedling Expand into Roach Aggression is very, very much so. That's a heavy, heavy commitment. And if you're not going to do damage, and if you're not going to do substantial damage, you're going to be behind after the fact. So I will say that the Roach Aggression was absolutely a mistake. Maybe I should have made 3 Roaches and left them at home to deal with the Hellions. Maybe I should have just defended Hellions with Speedlings. But making that push across the map with Hellions delayed my economy badly, and it didn't do any damage at all. So Terran basically came out way super ahead. The other big mistake we made there is, as a result of our poor choice in terms of being aggressive, our droning was set back a lot, and that gave up all of the tempo. Terran was able to set the pace of the whole game, which meant every time I lost units, I had to build more because I was at risk of dying. And there was the critical mistake that we made here in Terran's third, engaging a few Marines, losing all of our lings, and then being basically forced to make more units just so we don't immediately fold to a counter. If I was going to summarize anything and everything and all of it at once, I would say quite simply that opening Speedlings is fine, but against a player that's opening Hellions, it's maybe not that smart. This is why it's important to scout. So maybe we could go all the way back to the beginning and say, hey, let's scout a little bit sooner so that we get a look at that in time to maybe make a more educated decision in regards to what opening we want to use. Thanks for watching, guys. This has been my first video in the series that I'm going to call Learning from Your Losses. So expect lots of these. You guys will be able to watch me lose plenty of games and get a little bit of analysis on that stuff. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be doing more of these in the future. Thanks for watching.